People think that a business is all about the systems and structure, and you have a few of the same key people, but not many, because I couldn't afford what I've got at 5 million, let alone 10, and I can't afford all those people. Other than that, there's nothing, they don't have anything in common. As you grow as a business owner, you're literally running different businesses.
How can you help us, though, continue to help you? First, please subscribe to the channel. Like us. If you listen to the audio version, leave us a 5-star review wherever you can. If you see our posts, please share those posts, share the content, and link back to our law firm website, which helps us to continue our SEO marketing and grow our firm and help small business owners. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the show. I'm Mitch Beinhacker, your host. If you are listening to us on an audio directory, please leave us a 5-star review whenever you can. And if you are watching us on YouTube, you'll hear a commercial during the show. Looking to beef that up. Subscribe, like the show, share it so we can keep connecting with cool people like Michael. We're going to talk to in a minute and bring in more listeners, get more eyeballs on the show. I always say that if you are listening, this is for entertainment purposes only. And if you hear some advice or things that we discuss, before making any decisions, always check with your local licensed qualified professionals. So, Michael, thanks for coming on the show. I didn't even ask you, where are you located?
Vancouver, Canada.
Very good. So you are 3 hours behind, all the way on the West Coast. British Columbia, is that true? That's where Vancouver is, right?
That's
British
correct.
Columbia? Very good. Okay, this is a coast-to-coast episode. I like that. So why don't you get into... so this is the end of my day and the beginning of yours, right? Kind of?
Correct. Well, sure.
It's like midday there. Why don't we go back and talk about your background in like business, entrepreneurship, corporate, I don't know, whatever your background is, and then we can get into all the leadership stuff you're doing now, talk a little bit about your book, that type of stuff. Does that make sense?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, let's do it.
So I've run this firm for just over 30 years now. May 3rd was our 30th anniversary.
Okay, congratulations.
So our firm's a millennial.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Before that, I was doing personal and corporate planning with clients, helping them make and save money and things like that. And the interesting thing I found was we were doing a lot of tax planning as well as financial planning and stuff. And I had a principal that he and his wife that we were working with. We did some investment things for them, and was always also taking care of their tax returns. And so the investment we put them in, was a good, quiet investment here in Canada.
Yeah.
And this was a gentleman who was making $90,000 a year gross revenue, or gross, I guess his personal paycheck.
Right.
That was his income.
Right.
In Canada, we have something called a T4, which is the same as your W2.
That's the equivalent.
And he got $30,000 withheld in tax. We got him $27,000 of
$90,000 pay?
From $90,000 pay, his tax bill was $30,000.
Yeah, that sounds high just on its face.
We're in Canada, did I mention?
You like to pay taxes up there.
Okay, we have a very small population in a very big country. There's things to tend to.
Yeah,
and free healthcare is not really free. We just pay for it a different way.
Right. That's true.
Got him $27,000 back. For him and his wife, we charged them $1,500 for the tax returns themselves. He was all thrilled, thought this was great. Next year, he said, listen, can you take care of these tax returns for us again? He says, I'm good with the investment. It's still ticking along. I said, no problem. So use the same tax elements that we used the previous year, got him the same $27,000 back, charged him $1,500 for back-to-back returns, and he complained.
Because he only got $27,000 back again?
No, because he's like, why are you charging me $1,500 for back-to-back returns? I said, well, that's the price we charge for the returns. And by the way, did you notice that your net taxable bill was really $3,000?
Right.
And he said, well, you got me $27,000 back last year. What do you got new for me? Why should I pay for you this again?
Oh, he's and I'm like, the returns the right way, so yeah, okay.
So here's what I noticed from this. You can only save somebody so much tax. You can't save them more tax than they paid. And we were pretty darn close.
Right.
The second thing is that if you put them into higher yield investments, this one is ticking along quite nicely, but if you put them in higher yield investments, they're higher risk, and sometimes people actually lose their money.
Yeah, very much.
However, if you can teach somebody to sell more, they keep paying you more. There's no lid on that one.
Right.
I switched gears.
Their income.
Exactly.
So you switched.
I switched.
I'm done with this.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Because I had clients that are saying, can you help us with this or help us with that? And the first thing I did was outsource sales management for a business owner who had 10 salespeople.
Right.
And he never had enough time for his salespeople. So he said, Michael, can you come in each Monday? I want you to come in and I want you to meet with each of them. And so I'd spend about 45 minutes with each of them. And then at 3 o'clock, I'd sit down with him, and for 2 hours, I'd debrief him on what I got from each of the 10 salespeople. And he'd then, on Tuesday, go around, oh, I hear you did this really well, or I hear you're struggling with that, or somebody else was, you need a hand with this client. And he was able to actually increase his sales by over 50%, just because he had firsthand information without having to invest the time in it.
Right. You were the director of business development.
Yeah, something like that. So it all worked out, and then it continued to grow from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, the moral of the story is that you should not be doing everything yourself. That you get more leverage from employing, what's the word, the who versus the how? Mm-hmm. You were the
and I was his who at that time.
You were what?
I was his who.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. I think that's what people miss. I was just talking to somebody else on an earlier show today. You were probably asleep at the time, but earlier in the day on the East Coast. And we were talking about that one of the first objectives you should have as a business owner is, what shouldn't I be doing? Not that you can do it, but what is not effective, and how do I get these people to take these things over so I can be the person that drives the business, or whatever you do at the top ultimately, or else you're never going to have an organization, or else you're just going to be a slave to your business. What's going to happen?
Well, I love you saying that, because one of the things that I find is one of the biggest impediments to growth is doing. The bigger the game gets, the more you're paid to think.
Right.
The less you're paid to do.
Right.
So the key is
the lower paid people do.
Mm-hmm. And it's not like you're better than them. It's just that they're doing what their contribution, and you're freed up to be able to take a look at the larger picture and see how you can design things in ways that actually make a bigger difference for everybody.
Yeah, 100%.
First and foremost, your client, obviously.
Yeah. So was that like your first kind of foray into business development, the business development coaching side?
Yes. Well, that was back in 1995, and yes, it was.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. Right, that's a while ago.
Yeah, a year or two ago. So,
yeah.
I'd been doing a little bit of stuff on before that, but enough to know that the skills were developed in that area that I could actually step out on my own. And so, but then I continued to learn from different clients. I had done my undergrad in commerce and economics, my MBAs in international business, and it was at that point that I actually went out on my own.
Got it. So the other stuff you were doing on the financial side, forecasting, tax planning, that was with a company? It wasn't your company? Yeah,
I was a junior partner with a little firm of 6 people.
Got it. Okay. And were you considered an accountant up in Canada? Is that or financial planner or?
We were doing financial planning for sure, and we were licensed from a financial planning side for investments and things. But I was doing as much tax work as else, just because I had the commerce undergrad. So I wasn't an actual CPA, but I knew enough about the different things around tax. It was both commerce and economics. I had a double major. And so what I found was the commerce part gave me the tax planning side, but the economics side gave me the larger picture view. And I found that 1-2 punch was really powerful. And when I work with other people since then, I've looked for that combination perspective, because I find that if somebody's just in the commerce side, too often they're focused on getting all the detail right, but often people miss the larger picture. And that doesn't mean that everybody with a commerce degree misses a larger picture. Let's not kid ourselves.
Right.
But it was interesting to see the elements that the economic side bring to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you first got started, you basically started your own business, right? So you were teaching people how to sell and develop business, but you needed to do it for yourself too, right? I assume you didn't just take all your clients with you, did you? Or maybe you could.
No, well, what happened with the firm that I was with, the deal was you don't take anybody with you if you
Right,
leave.
it's common.
And so it was interesting there because even though I was one of six, I was generating about 50% of the gross income in that firm.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. And I told the senior partner, listen, I'm going out on my own. And he said, well, you have all these clients and nobody else knows them. You might as well take them. And I'm like, I don't want to.
Right.
They were all tax planning clients.
Right. Exactly.
And the other ones for business, I'd completed the arrangements so that I wouldn't leave anybody short-handed or anything, and I could start new. I had 2 referrals that I hadn't contacted yet, so I was still lily white, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, the tax planning can't, so I had to find a place to be able to bring those to other people. And it was interesting because this guy also said, he said, well, we're storing
clients. I don't know.
They didn't want to keep clients because I was the only one that knew them.
I know that, but the people you send them to, they wouldn't know them either. So what's the difference? They might as well keep the business. I don't understand that logic. Not your logic, their logic.
Did I mention I was one of 6 and generating 50% of the revenue?
Yeah, but
there's probably a reason for that.
Oh yeah, maybe right. That's probably a self-fulfilling. So that's going to answer the question itself. But logically, he's like saying, okay, well, you take these clients. You're like, well, I'm not going to be doing this anymore. So maybe some of the clients want to hire me for this new service that I'm offering, but not the old service. Okay, now you got to find a new home for these people. So they're with a new planner, not you.
Correct.
But your people were, maybe that's one of the reasons why you left, were short-sighted enough to let 50% of their clientele walk out the door. Actually, they opened the door for them and helped them to the car.
They literally did.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Did they stay in business for a long time?
Let's put it this way. 3 weeks later, they moved from a Schedule A building to a Schedule C building in Vancouver.
Yeah, they downgraded a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big downgrade, yeah. So, and
it's probably another study in what not
yeah,
to
whole
do,
different conversation. Well, the other side of it, though, that it points to, that I do interact with today, is that people think that a business is all about the systems and structures.
Right.
And they say, people come and people go. It's the systems and structures that stay or, that last. So you should really focus on systems and structures. And it's just not true if you want to grow a company.
Right.
What happens is that, if you take a look, okay, so Mitch, you got a business at $1 million
Right.
revenue, the same business at $5 million, say after it's grown a little bit,
Yeah.
the same business at $10 million. Okay.
Right.
What do they share?
Same employees, more employees.
Okay. Sometimes they have the same product. Sometimes even the product's
Well,
more.
you're saying it's the same company, right?
Same company.
It grew over time.
It grew over time. So sometimes you have the same product,
Maybe they've grown the service,
but maybe it's shifted.
Right.
Sure. You have the same value set, as long as the company hasn't actually changed hands.
Right. If they've stayed with
And you have a few of the same key people.
right, but those
But not many, because I couldn't afford what I've got at 5 million, let alone 10. At $1 million, I can't afford all those people.
and even if
so
you
we
have
got
a few people that might be doing the wrong things, so yeah, everything's good.
Well, whether they're doing the right or wrong things, the bottom line is there's very few. Like at 10 million, I've got a whole different population of people than I have at $1 million.
Yeah.
So other than that, there's nothing. They don't have anything in common.
Right.
So as you grow as a business owner, you're literally running different businesses.
Yeah, and by the way, you may not have the skills to run the $10 million business that you did run in the $1 million business. That
Correct.
happens. Very common.
Completely different skills.
Right.
Now, the corollary to that? Think of a parent with a 3-year-old. Then the child eventually grows and is a 13-year-old. Mm-hmm. And eventually the child grows as a 23-year-old.
Right.
Other than shared DNA, and perhaps, a similar bedroom, you're dealing with 3 different people at those 3 different
Completely.
ages. A 13-year-old
It's a
is
good analogy. Yeah.
yeah, a 13-year-old is actually struggling with what it's like to go through puberty. A 3-year-old, you're trying to make sure that the right stuff gets in their mouth and the wrong stuff stays out of their mouth.
Right.
They're very different people, right?
Right. And one looks to you and wants you to be there and help them and do everything for him. The other one thinks that they know everything and I got this, Dad.
That's right. That's right.
Kids. I got
And we don't know whether that's 13 or the 23-year-old because it's different versions.
Up. I know. And they,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how does a parent survive?
The right way or the wrong way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Either way.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes you just make, you get through it. You ask a therapist, you talk to your doctor, you read stuff, you try to see what other people are doing. There's no true parenting system.
Would it be fair to say that it's the relationship that you nurture with that child as he or she grows that allows you to actually survive that process and actually be useful?
Yeah, because then they're open to the influence or suggestions that you give them and guidance. The ones that aren't, and you don't have a strong relationship or just fighting you all the way.
Right. And so this thing called a relationship, so between you and I, we've just met recently, we have this relationship between us. I would assert that you don't control the relationship. I don't control the relationship, but we both influence it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay? So, and that's true, in my opinion, with all relationships.
Yeah, that's true. I can only control what I'm doing in response to the things that you're trying to control.
Right. And the only way to control the relationship, for me to control the relationship, is if I were to seek to control you somehow.
Right.
Now, do you like being controlled?
No, I don't like that.
Okay, yeah, I don't like it either. So we're on the same page on that one.
Right.
Now, some people say, well, I controlled my kids. I mean, if you take a look, 83% of all millennials say that number one hero was mom. 82% of all millennials say that number two hero is dad.
Okay.
40% of all baby boomers said they would have been better off without parents.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, as soon as they turn 18, they're like, oh, good, I'm going to university, getting the heck out of this house, right?
Yeah.
And so they're just whoosh, wherever they can. And if they can't, they'll find some job in a different city or something. Well, I had to move away or whatever. They find a reason to get out of, so people act like the parents of the boomers, for example, and some of the Gen Xers, controlled their kids. They didn't control them, they just suppressed them, and then they spend the next 20 years trying to make up for it with each other, repairing whatever occurs when you try to control somebody.
Right.
So you never control the actual relationship.
Right. Well, you don't. I mean, I think one of the failings of parents in prior generations is that they did not empower their children to take responsibility for their action, to own what they're doing, to feel that they're part of the, they just said, well, this is it. You know the expression, well, why do I have to do that? Because I'm your father. Like, that's not a good enough answer to people, especially millennials.
No, or Gen Z.
You don't say that at work. Well, because I'm the boss. I mean, you could say that, but you're going to get a really bad result.
Well, actually, you get a quiet office.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Because unlike your parents, because you think, well, my parents are not going to throw me out on the street, as bad a kid I could be, you could get fired at work. So if you're a dictator and a tyrant and a moody person, nasty, not nice to people, don't empower your employees. You're right. You have no control over them. You think you do, and then they eventually leave if they have a better option.
Well, the interesting thing about that is that ties into the whole notion of management.
Yeah.
Management in the 20th century was not always like that. In the 19th century or earlier, functional management was all based on apprenticeship. Learn from the master. It was only when you had the veterans and the novices working together, but then they went to the assembly line, and you have veterans teaching their novices the 6 things they want to learn, but they teach them in their own image. And so if I've got 20 different veterans, not to be confused with military vets, but senior people versus junior people. If I have 20 different senior people with different ways of doing things, and all their novices are trying to actually emulate them,
right,
I get a lumpy assembly line.
Yeah.
So what they did was, instead of having one person do 6 things, they had 6 people do 1 thing each. And I got to tell you, the employees hated it.
Yeah, of course, because it's monotonous, and there's nothing that's interesting about your work.
Well, and that's where unions started to show up.
Sure.
Notwithstanding that, though, it really worked. what you found is a place like Bethlehem Steel used, before they brought in these management practices and processing based on assembly line type operations, you were in a situation where they were processing and cutting 9 linear feet of steel per minute. Within 3 or 4 months, when they started making these changes, it went to 50 linear feet per minute.
Because of assembly line type of?
Yeah, the assembly and lining things up so they just made more sense to the assembly line.
Right.
And even though the people hated it, they figured, who cares if you don't like it? They were sabotaging machines, so they'd make them pay for the machines. And if they didn't want to pay for the machines, they'd fire them and get 3 other people that do 3 aspects of their job and for a lot less, and they went.
Yeah.
And it was so profitable that the business owners didn't care. They said, "You want union? Sure, we'll pay you more on the union. We don't care, but we're still making a ton of money off this thing."
Right, sure.
And since that happened from like 1903 onwards, you're in a situation where that's what we've grown up knowing.
Right.
It's the only thing we know. We think managers, I'm the boss, you're the employee, you need to do what I say. And we think, well, okay, we have to be nice about it.
Right.
But, so we give lip service to being nice.
Right, of course.
Yeah. But today, the power grid has shifted. The power doesn't sit with the business owners. The power sits with the individual teams of knowledge workers.
Right.
Because that's where the work actually gets done. If you were my boss before and you'd say, "I'm going to hold a gun to your family's head. If you don't lift that rock, I'm going to shoot them." So I lift the rock.
Of course.
Whereas today, if you hold the gun to my head or their head and you say, "Be creative in this service-based business,"
Right.
the brain just doesn't work that way.
It's not. You're not
So-
empowering people.
Completely different environment, and it's not physical labor anymore. You need their brain at the table. So it just doesn't work.
Right. I don't know how well it worked then. I mean, productivity increased, but you got to. I don't think corporations would run themselves as if people mattered.
They didn't.
Right? It was more like the output, the profitability, the bottom line. And if you're the guy who's putting the one bolt on that part of the assembly line, and you're just and you just have a shitty day, that's life. You're a shop worker. But I think that I think you get more out of your employees if you empower them to, be creative and take ownership and do stuff. That doesn't mean that processes don't matter. I'm not saying that. But I think when somebody's coming, and especially on the small business level, I think that, large corporations maybe it's a little different. Like we said, 10 million versus 1 million, different company. But I think that ultimately the smaller business who doesn't empower their employees to take ownership and to be creative and to treat it like it's their own don't get the most out of their people, don't get loyalty, don't, that kind of stuff.
Completely agree. In fact, it goes to the question, do you treat your business like a well-oiled machine, or do you treat your business like an intelligent ecosystem?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So, and if anybody treats their business like a well-oiled machine, usually gets in trouble because the people become cogs in that system. And so if I'm a cog in the system, my voice doesn't count.
Right.
But if you need my brain power, I don't do too well if you treat me like a cog.
Right.
Whereas and if you look at the difference, a machine is designed for the benefit of the owners.
Yeah.
The owners of the machine.
Of course.
And the employees are cogs within that. They're not the owners, and as a result, it's not for their benefit. In an ecosystem, it's for the benefit of the owners and the clients and the people within. It has to work for everybody.
Right.
In an ecosystem, it's just how it works. Yeah. So it's a little harder to put together an ecosystem initially, but in the long term, it works way better. And it's actually how people increase their freedom in the business, from the business, and also because of their business.
Right, very much so. We were talking about that this morning. That's why you need the who's. Like, that's why you shouldn't be doing everything yourself. If you want a good quality of life and you want to be successful and you want to enjoy the fruits of your labor, you shouldn't be doing things that, you could pay somebody $20, $30, $40 an hour to do when you can be focusing on other things, even if that's spending time with your children, And I think that as business owners or entrepreneurs, we feel like, we got to do it. Well, we're the entrepreneur. We got to do everything. And that's like the death knell for a business.
Totally. Now,
So-
the other side of this thing is when you look at structures, we said, you can rely on systems and structures. Well, you're going to outgrow them. So you can't even rely on those.
Right. No,
so,
they got to
so
be adjusted and changed and added. And if you had empowered employees, they probably would help you along that way. They would let you know this isn't working for us now. This is why. This is a better way to do it.
But of course, if you add to your numbers of people, things get complex really quickly.
Right.
If I took a look at, say, a 2x2 grid, 4 people, there were 6 one-on-one relationships there.
Okay.
Okay? If I go to 25 people, there are 300 one-on-one relationships.
Yep.
If I go to 50 people, 1,225 one-on-one relationships.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know what? In a 50-person company, everybody still knows everybody else.
Right.
Unless you're in different branches. And at 100 people, there's almost 5,000. There's 4,950 one-on-one relationships. And you wonder why this whole term herding cats is there. The other side of it is you have 100 people at a wedding. No wonder it's hard to plan for who sits where. I can't put Mrs. McGillicuddy next to Jerry. She'll talk his ear off, and I'll hear about it for months.
Right.
I mean,
It's the same type
you
of thing. You have to have processes in place to manage your employees to help them be effective and not feel overwhelmed in terms of, the number of relationships that they have to maintain.
And here's what everybody knows that, and it goes really, really well up to about 20 people, maybe upwards to 30 people.
Yeah.
But you've outstripped your structures, and there's more people, and it feels kind of frenetic. So what they try to do is put a different structure in to constrain or get people to do what I need them to do.
Right.
Said differently, to try to control people.
Right.
So an alternative way to do it is, as you outstrip the structures, you look and say, as I put in new structures,
Right.
how can I put them in so that they support people to be at their best, rather than try to control them?
Right. Correct.
Now, that only works, it only works if you hire properly.
Right.
Hiring is literally half the game.
Yep. Right seats, right bus, right people.
Yep.
Very
Right, exactly. And
Yeah.
nobody says, well, I think I'm going to get B-class people. I don't want the A's. I'm just going to get
I'm
the...
looking for mediocre people to do this job.
Yeah, nobody does that.
Right. No.
But what they do is they put a lid on the money, and then they get the best they can for that. And if they can't find it, they go down and try who they can or whatever, and they figure, well, maybe I'll do this or that or something else.
Maybe you're getting your calendaring from one software and you're invoicing from another. Evenoo is a platform that we use as one of our sponsors to run our entire business. And there's other features like auto payments and integrations with QuickBooks. Visit evenoo.com, EVONUE.com to learn more. There's also a link in the show notes. And be sure to tell them that the Accidental Entrepreneur referred you. This podcast is brought to you by our affiliate sponsor, iEmployee. iEmployee is a virtual assistant service that hires almost anyone for any role in your company right out of the Philippines. Most roles range from $7 to $9 an hour for highly skilled and experienced VAs. And whether you need an executive assistant, social media manager, video editor, customer service, sales, you name it, they have it. We use iEmployee for our VA services, from editing and promoting the podcast to all the PR and promotion of our law firm. iEmployee acts as a virtual field supervisor on the back end with live video monitoring and reports on a daily basis with screenshots of your VA's workday, and along with complete HR and payroll duties. No more paying for overpriced and underqualified workers. There's a link in the show notes to get a 1-week free trial, and I encourage you to take advantage of it.
The thing they don't do is hire up. So if I can't get people at this level, then what do I need to pay to actually get people that I would treat as potential partners or definitely close allies?
Yeah.
I'll pay more for somebody that's a potential partner than I would for somebody I just want to get the job done.
Yeah.
And what happens is you can actually grow something that's worthwhile, but I got to tell you, you get about 5-to-1 back. It was interesting. At one point I heard Bill Gates talking about the developers in Microsoft.
Uh-huh.
And he said the entire company would be a shell of itself if we lost somewhere between 25 and 30 of the developers. They run the whole place. They are the core of the entire company. Without those people, the rest of it would be a shell.
Right.
I thought, wow, such a small percentage of the people there. But those people are worth their weight in gold.
Right. Well, they're the ones cranking out the technology and the new stuff, but all the other people are supporting the activities that drive the sales and
Correct.
marketing and management of the company. Sure.
Or even the delivery of the ideas coming from those 25 or 30 people, And it's not like they're in one spot. There's a few little cells of people where that's the case.
Right.
But it's amazing because one person that's top tier is usually where somewhere between 3 and 5 people that are the second level.
Okay. I'll buy that.
Well, think about it. If you had an assistant, every time you turn around, you go, no, I know you were going to meet with them. They're already booked. Okay, and yeah, you commented about that this is a type of legal agreement. I put the thing together. I just want you to review that. And you're like, okay, this person just put 95% of what I need together.
Right.
And they were right on point. It's not like some AI generic thing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And like that person is worth their weight in many other people. Right? So instead of settling for, sticking with it and actually looking for somebody at a different level. It's actually easier to find somebody at a higher level than it is to find somebody that meets the minimum criteria that you're looking at sometimes in some industries.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's
because
that's short-sightedness in investing in people, right?
Yeah. But that's literally half the game, because if I get the right people on the team, there's very little I can't do.
Oh, of course. Who, not how.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. So have you worked in more commonly in some industries versus others, or you're kind of all over the place?
Service-based businesses, or businesses with a strong service component that's based in the expertise of the people involved.
So we're talking professionals
professional services like engineers, architects, accountants, etc., but medical people, but also skilled trades. We've got people that
electricians, things like that.
Yeah, stone people. We've got people in different aspects of construction. We've got people in commercial installation.
Right, but it's still a service-based business.
It's totally a service-based business, and it requires different levels of expertise.
Right.
So we wouldn't do, say, a college pro painters where, kids learn how to do something over the course of the summer. But I have had people that were, maestros when it comes to painting. Like there's one group I had, the whole company was with a 13-month waiting list to paint houses.
13 months?
13 months.
I don't want to wait 13 months. In 13 months, I'll either change my mind or move.
Unless you actually had Vito in his company. Those guys were amazing. Literally.
Obviously, if people are willing to wait 12, 13 months to get their house painted, these people must be, I don't know if it's service or paint, it must be something.
A combination, but the result was amazing.
Yeah.
And the service was second to none.
Of course, and that's why people, did you work with them? Were they like that when you were brought in to work with them, or they got better?
They were already that good, and what we did was we helped them grow.
They weren't growing enough?
No. There was like 4 people in the company, and by the time we were done, there were 20 people in the, but by the time we were doing with 20 people in the company, okay, and the waiting list lengthened.
Right, because you had more business.
There was so much more business, because he's got more people, maybe we can, if they learn from Vito, then we want to work with him.
Right.
Or his people.
Yeah, but that company's a good example. Don't you then hire more people, train the right people so you can get that waiting time down? Isn't that a detriment to customer service that I got to wait 18 months to get my house painted?
Well, that was the goal, and that was the thinking. It's just that his reputation was so strong that as soon as they heard that he might be more available, and it wasn't just the guy, it was anybody training, they lined up even longer.
Right.
I mean, I don't know about you, but if I go to a different country, I'll go eat at the restaurant with the lineup.
Well, I mean, I always felt that if you're somewhere, it's funny. We were somewhere in Italy. We're in Florence. Okay, my daughter was overseas, so we went to. She was studying abroad, so the whole family went to visit her. So we're near the Basilica or whatever in the square, and in Italy there is a gelato store literally every 10 feet. I mean, it's
Right.
everywhere, piled up in the windows, whatever. So we were walking across the square, and there's this line, like down the block. All these people are waiting to get gelato out of this one store. And I said to my son, I said, do you think people know something? He's like, what do you mean? I go, there's 6 other gelato stores here. Nobody's going in them. They're all standing outside online waiting to get. So they must know something. So we got, and I'm sure a lot of people felt the same way.
Absolutely.
We got on the line too, waited an hour for gelato instead of buying it in 2 seconds. I don't know why, but the perception was there must be a reason that there's a line here, right? So it was probably the same thing. People were like, yeah, I got to wait 18 months to get my house painted, but there must be a reason for that. This guy must be really good at what he does.
Absolutely. Well, I got to tell you, my wife and I have gone down to Mexico a number of times. We had a place down there for over a decade, and we'd always go to the place with a line, and we were never disappointed.
Right, because not everybody's just getting on lines for no reason.
No.
If places are busy, who was Yogi Berra? Didn't he used to say that? That restaurant's so busy people don't go there anymore.
Right.
But you're right. But that's a lot of that is customer service and perception. So what do you do when somebody brings you in? Does it vary from company to company, or are you just brought in to increase business development?
What I'm brought into, when people want to grow in support of their goals for impact.
Okay.
So sometimes the impact is legacy planning, succession planning, things like that. But more often these days, what we're doing is they really want to increase the impact they make in some small corner of the world. And they want to use their business as a conduit for that. And so we help them grow. Sales, human resources, the underlying structures, what it takes to grow. And a lot of it is realigning the corporate culture,
Okay.
and supporting that. But there's more to it. It's also like sector-based financials, and there's the different sales strategies, and there's the operational improvements that can be involved. Like it's both structures and people. And so what we do is we combine people and structures so that you can get, because as you outstrip your structures, you need to replace them with you need structures. Every business absolutely needs structure. But if you ignore the behaviors of your people, you're in trouble.
Right.
So it's how do you combine those two so that, first of all, you can increase the freedom of your owners and leaders and, frankly, everybody in the organization. The second thing is you actually make it, by doing that, you make it a better place to work. And it's easier to give people the type of experience you want them to get as your customer base.
Sure.
And you can grow the wealth of the company in such a way so that you really can make the impact that you want, whether it's to your family or whether it's to the cause that you're supporting.
Absolutely. Well, that's the biggest problem, right? I think people don't even do that strategic planning. They don't even take, they meet you, they might, but if they don't even take an overall view of, what's going on and how do I fix it and why do I, they don't seek out professionals. I was talking to somebody earlier about, coaches and mentors and things like that. And when they started their business, that was one of the first things they did was start learning from other people, seeing what other people are doing and who can the best coaches have coaches, right?
Right.
We all do, and the ones of us that are successful and the ones of us that feel like for some reason entrepreneurial success means you do it all yourself, which is totally not true. It's probably why this failure rate's so high, right? People do try to do things on their own. That it does. It takes a village. I mean, it's no question about it. You can't do it. And the ones that I know that really do it the right way, they have better qualities of life. They're not overwhelmed with decision making because they have good people making those decisions. Mm-hmm. Probably you and I have a company, 8 out of 10 decisions should not be made by us.
Correct.
Maybe from day one they should be, but ultimately that's the goal, right?
Well, whoever's responsible for delivering needs to be the one to make the decision.
Yeah. Whatever that is, right?
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
So I told you before, I love stories, success stories, failure stories, things you were brought in because people are struggling. Do you have any that you can share without revealing personal information? I've been doing this a long time.
Well, let me give you one scenario. In 2011, I was sent an email by a woman by the name of Louise
Okay.
in the UK.
Okay.
Now, at the time, I'd done a lot of stuff in Canada and the United States at that point, but I hadn't been over to the UK doing work out there at all yet. She sent me some information, and I got on a web call with her. And she basically walked through, and it's like, this is like every single business that we've got here in Canada or the U.S. Now, the payroll was a little different, you know, in the pounds versus dollars and that.
Right.
So other than those ratios that were not quite aligned with what we have both in Canada and the U.S., everything seemed the same.
Okay.
So I said I'd go over there, and so she actually,
Michael?
Sorry?
How'd she find you?
From my first book.
Oh, from your book. Okay, she read.
So
your book.
she read my first book. She had read some articles online, and then she found my first book, and from that she said, I like how this guy thinks. Maybe he can help us. And she was looking at growing. She had just she was a little 400,000 pound company, so it was a little smaller than I was used to. That's about 600,000 US.
Okay.
At the time, and the bank had cut her line of credit in half, but not her personally. A whole group of people, just because it was a couple of years
having financial problems. Now, is that?
Well, it was a big bank. It was Barclays Bank, but it was just after the 2008 recession, and so by 2010 they were still cutting and doing things to try to get them right size themselves, right? So she called me and said she thought that I was going to show her how to fund things and how to get the right financing. She wanted to get 150,000. I'm like, okay, hang on. 400,000 pounds gross, 80,000 pounds net, and she wants to raise 150,000. Nobody's going to back a small business owner without taking some percentage control that would be untenable.
Right.
So it's like, why don't we just help her get a little bit of seed funding and just to help things, but teach her how to grow, because she was in a service-based business. She was in the e-learning company.
E-learning. Okay.
E-learning. Okay. She was building she had a small team building e-learning modules for companies.
Got it.
Okay.
Audio books, video stuff, all that.
All that stuff. Well, but actually built the actual programs that we're now using audiobooks and video stuff for these days. This was back in 2011, it's a little bit before
I see what you're saying. Okay.
audiobooks came.
Yeah.
So, long story short is I went over there, spent a week with her, and basically I charged her expenses. I spent a few days with her, spent a week over in the UK, and she paid for the trip.
Okay.
And I said I didn't charge her anything, but we agreed that it would make sense to work together. By 2014, we had her to 2 million pounds.
Okay.
By 4 years later, 2018, we had her at 7.3 million pounds, which is about 10.5 million US. And at that point in
Did our
time,
margin improve? Was it still 20%?
it's a little higher.
Okay. Good.
Okay. But it was time for her to go. I mean, when I met her in 2011, she was already 52. Okay, and she had spent 10 years bouncing around between 250 and 400,000 pounds in her little business. So it was interesting, because by year 2, she's like, I want to make $1 million. I want to make $1 million. I said, I'm sorry, Louise, you can't do that. She's like, why? What's wrong?
Right.
I said, nothing. You're already at 1.4. She's like, okay.
Right. So what were you doing wrong? Or what did you change? Or what did you improve? Or
she just didn't know how to run the company. Here's the thing, as the company grows, everything changes.
right. Well, we said
And she thought it was something wrong with her.
right.
It's like, no, I promise you, the business is too big and too small. We need to reorganize how things go. And so in this latest book that I've come up with, the second book I wrote was actually about the first half of her journey. It's called Thinking Big is Not Enough. And we looked at all the myths and misconceptions that stop business growth. I find that there's as many ways to grow a business as there are people, because everybody's got different skills and strengths and all that. And if you put them together, they're all different, right?
Right.
But the problems are all the same.
Yeah, you think?
If you can help people overcome the problems, all of a sudden they'll find unique ways to find, a way to make their own mark. And so it's interesting, because so she sold that, and that was fine. And then it actually led to the next book that I wrote, the one that I just came out with.
Right.
And what I found there was business owners are a pretty savvy bunch. If they can see a problem, they can solve it. If they can't see a problem, but they know it exists, again, they can find resources to solve it. The ones that get them stuck is if they can't see the problem, they don't even know it exists, even while it's got them in its grips. Okay, those are the ones that they struggle with. And those are what I call the danger zones. And so in 2020, with the pandemic coming up,
Yeah.
I actually decided, okay, time to write another book.
Yeah.
So it took me about a month and a half to list these danger zones and what's going on with them. And then I started to try to write the solution. And here's what I discovered. I didn't know what it was. I was supporting people all the time, going through each individual situation, but because they were outstripping structures, and the structures are all different at different sizes, combined with human behavior, it muddied it enough that even though it literally took me 3 years to figure out that those were the underlying issues. And as soon as we got that sorted out, we said, okay, well, then how do you put together a framework to support people moving past that? And in fact, in this current book, the whole second half outlines that framework that allows people to grow their businesses in ways that actually keep them sane, keep their people sane, actually allow them to get increased profit, actually enjoy their jobs more, right, even as an owner, without having to shed the company to be happy.
Now, was that the book cover you sent me? Freedom by Design?
Yes. The Established Business Owner's Guide to Grow, Make an Impact, and Find the Joy Again.
Yeah. Look, like what got you there at the beginning is not the skills that are going to get you there in the end. That very few people have both skill sets. The people that have the skill sets to be with the $10, $20 million company are probably in corporate America, and they're executives, C-suite type of people. They're not the people that are thinking like entrepreneurs. It's not always the case, right? But people leave corporate America all the time, and they're going to go out on their own, and they're going to start, and they struggle because they don't have those skills. The smart ones go out and find coaches and find, mastermind groups and to learn the skills that they need to be that person down on the bottom of the totem pole again, because they don't have those skills anymore. I think.
Now, which brings us full circle, though, because at the end of the day, it really is all about relationships. Yeah. And if you can understand a few different elements of human behavior, you can understand the structures to behavior.
Yeah.
And if I could understand what are the structures of behavior, it allows me to support those relationships as we grow, and I really can get in alignment with my people, and they can be in alignment with me. And it's far less onerous than people fear, and it takes a little bit more than they're doing now.
Yeah, understandable. Now, this is a personal question, but what would you say is your ideal client profile? Like, I know they use the term avatar. I don't love it, but the ideal profile of the client that you're looking to work with, the people that you can help the most. What would you say? Is that industry agnostic? Is it specific to certain industries? Is it specific to other things? Like, what do you got to make that choice, right?
Sure. Well, we focus on service-based businesses where it's based in the expertise of their people. Okay. They've already achieved the first couple of million.
You said, right?
Professionals or skilled trades.
Right.
Okay. They've already achieved at least $1 million for sure, but usually the low end is closer to 2, anywhere from 2 to 20 million
of gross
revenues.
Okay.
And they want to grow in support of something larger than just their bottom line. If they're just after the money, it gets too hard. If they're interested in some impact or difference they can make, we can actually help them do that. And they get every element of the financial aspect as well, as long as they're also looking for something larger than that.
It's funny that you say that, because I think that is a misnomer. I think you said if they focus on the money, it gets too hard.
Yep.
The money is really the result of your focus in growing a company for the right reasons, right? Lifestyle, succession, whatever it is, the money kind of follows all of that. But if the money is the thing that's driving all of that, why would you say it becomes too hard? So I hear that constantly. I agree with you.
Well, if all they focus on is the money, they're not focused beyond it. And what happens, they miss so much more. I cannot hit a good golf shot if I stop the club at the ball.
Right. Yeah, good.
And if
good
my goal is the money,
Right.
the ball goes about 12 feet.
Right.
If it goes that far. If I swing right through, because I'm going for something more, the money takes care of itself.
Right. Takes care of itself. Yeah.
Now, you have to put the structures in place to make sure
Obviously,
it does.
you got to look at your bottom line and know your numbers
Sure.
and all that kind of stuff. But it's really the result of doing things, swinging through, in using your analogy.
Yeah, people think that being an entrepreneur is all about the money.
Right.
It's not.
No,
it's about
just
freedom.
Reward. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, freedom to do whatever it is that you want to do. The problem is freedom costs a lot of money. That's why people focus on the money.
Right. Of course. Well, I understand that. But you know what? If they focused on the freedom that they wanted to build and how they wanted to build it, I believe, and you have as much experience or more than I do, that it'll take care of itself. Like they will be happier. They will make more money as they get the right people in place and empower the people to work for them and focus on the things that top down that they should be focusing on, and not be so stressed. That's probably the word, right? About the bottom line.
Yep.
I'm not saying you don't pay attention to it, but I'm saying that, I think that they miss a lot, like you said. Like being an entrepreneur at the beginning is very hard, right? You're working very long hours, probably working harder than you were if you were in corporate America before. And you're like, what am I doing this for? But if you focused on it and said, how can I build this job, company, organization, whatever it is, so it improves my life from a health and wellness standpoint, let's say, and a freedom standpoint, I think the money just flows from there. I think it just goes downstream, no?
Yeah, and if you build the relationships with your people such that you allow for their contributions,
Yeah.
it gets better for everybody.
No, because they're happier and you're happier and everybody's, you say a well-oiled machine. The analogy still kind of sticks, right? I mean, if everybody's kind of working together and are happy about the jobs that they're doing, they kind of do become a good machine that works together in harmony.
Well, I like to think that they're more of a really powerful ecosystem.
Yeah, I like the word ecosystem. I'm going to use that. Not a lot of people use that. So,
Okay.
I mean, it recognizes the complexity of a business organization.
Yes.
Even if it's one guy with a VA like me, with the VA that handles all of his marketing and a couple of paralegals that do some things and a few of council relationships. I mean, I have a lot of parts and systems in those places, but a lot of things I do by choice. I work. I'm very particular about my schedule. I do certain things. I program in going to the gym and doing kind of stuff. And I find that the word coach is the wrong word. I help other attorneys that I know. They're looking to go out on their own. Their firms are, they're getting older, and the firm's like, listen, bring in business or go out on your own. And they're like, I don't like working here. But, they're like, oh, I want to be like you. You don't wear a suit and, you come and go. And I go, listen, I work as hard as you do, but I do it by choice. I do my podcasting and marketing on Fridays, and I go to the gym on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, get in the office 10:30, and I try to leave Mondays open just for bookkeeping and dealing with things and whatever. And I do my appointments, and I use you probably use one now too. All these calendar programs, right? That have given me back hours of time just even scheduling meetings. That was ridiculous.
Sure.
And you can make them very specific to. Like if I remember that chat we had back in June, just like a preliminary chat about the podcast, those are only allowed certain times. Like you get the link and throws 15 minutes on my calendar at certain times. I don't just allow it open. Now, does that mean I didn't have 2 closings and 3 things go on today that I normally don't like? Yeah, it happens. But generally, and I think that they're surprised, right? To say, well, I can't do that. I mean, you have the luxury of doing it. No, I don't have the luxury of doing it. I just have the choice of doing it.
Well, it is a design issue. You've designed it to allow for it. Now, there's one other thing that I would say about this. It is a choice. You're absolutely right. The one other thing that I would say is, if somebody's listening to that, they're like, focus on your people, look at relationships.
Right, so nice.
It sounds like mom and kumbaya and it's apple pie and all this wonderful.
Yeah,
well, it's not quite Thanksgiving yet.
Right.
It's like, yeah, whatever, right?
Yeah, probably people
The truth is that the strategies we've used are as hard-nosed as I've found in 30 years of business. We can actually generate, let's put it this way, there was one branch of a an engineering firm in British Columbia.
Okay.
They were at 65 people. They're now at 130 people.
This is like a division of a bigger company.
This is the British Columbia offices of a national company.
Got it. Okay.
Okay? They went from break even-ish, after you take the head office allocations and all that.
Okay.
They are now the most profitable part of the entire company.
Because
They learned how to focus on people, hire right, and then get people doing what they're really good at. So what we got was the X factor of the power of humans to actually deliver.
And that company allowed them to do that, like empowered their division to almost run like a separate company.
They didn't. What the British Columbia office did was they stayed within the lines and kind of played with the edges of it.
In the system.
They worked within the system, but they quietly just built it because there's nothing inherently disgusting about allowing people to have a voice.
Right.
Nobody's going to argue against that. They just designed it in such a way so that it didn't violate anything that the national office has.
I would think upper management would eventually say, what the heck is going on in that office, right? Why are they so productive?
Well, here's what they did do is they said, yeah, I don't know, they're doing some stuff a little bit different. They're keeping within the rules, so we're okay, and we'll leave them alone if they've got an initiative. It used to be we'd say no to everything, but when they say something, as long as it doesn't violate our rules,
And
sure, we'll let them do it.
Yeah.
And they're making a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's in because now they want to actually go for another 5-fold increase. Now they're already well into 8 figures, and they figure if they do a 5-fold increase, they'll probably be at 9 figures as the British Columbia office.
Right.
And they just want to do it just because they want to show the national office that they're great, But, it's interesting because everybody wins on that. It's not at anybody's expense.
No, not at all.
And the people who win the most are the customers of this company.
I'm sure.
So
Yeah. No, absolutely.
it's kind of fun. So it really is far more pragmatic than it sounds.
No, absolutely, 100%. And I think that's a good point. Probably people are listening going, oh, yeah, it's really easy for you. You just be nice to everybody. And it's all going to be wonderful.
Yeah, I was nice to somebody, and, they turned around and sued me for being nice.
Exactly.
It's like,
Exactly. Like that, you don't get it. But that's a practice that you have to not preach. That's something you have to do on a regular basis, not one time. You're not the guy who bought the one townhouse real estate investment and you end up plumbing out toilets in the middle of the night. You're like, I'm never doing this again. Like that's right. Not a big enough sample of what you're doing. So you got to, you practice what you preach and put those things in place and learn from people. So what's the best way for people to kind of interact with you, maybe work with you? If they're too small, learn from you.
Well, the 2 different things they could do.
Read your books, obviously. We'll leave show notes.
Read the book, yeah.
Show notes.
Yeah, and this book, Freedom by Design, the good news is the way we've set it up is it's standalone. So somebody reads this book, they could actually improve their situation all by itself. And either in the back of the book, or if somebody went to our website, they could get access to me or anybody on our team as well. You're
not hiding from the people you're trying to help, so.
We are not hiding from the people we are trying to help. In fact, we are delighted to support them.
Absolutely. Well, be sure to I'll have your assistant get me all the links and the show notes to the books and things like that. I'm not sure if they're in your bio or not. And I'll have my girl put them in the show notes for the show.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make sure that you get all that.
Any parting words? We've had a lot of good words today. So,
just thanks for the opportunity to be here. It was actually quite an enjoyable conversation. Thanks for your engagement and the dialogue.
I mean, I think a bunch of people have said that to me. I think that's what this stuff's all about. 2 people coming together that have had significant amount of experience that can share good conversations that people can hopefully, if we, taught 1 or 2 people something today, all worth it,
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Michael, have a wonderful weekend, and I can't thank you enough for spending time coming on the show.
Well, thanks.